Okay, it's a sad reality right now if you observe that there is really a challenge to tell you the origin of this dollar. Actually, it depends on what country uh, governs the world. If you notice during the pre-colonial, um, the monetary international currency was different. Only now that it was US dollar that dominates the international currency. But before it's actually euro. Okay, that depends on which country is most practical. So since right now it's practical to use dollar when we deal with other countries like buying crude oil and all other products, it must be converted into dollar. That's why right now there is a shoot up, okay, or the increase of, there's a spike of the demand for dollar. But some economists says that it may not be good because they keep on producing dollar without any basis. Okay, it's just that at this time it's US that controls the world. Okay, they dominated all transactions, so it is very practical right now to use dollar. But lately there's a challenge. Okay, there was a declining the demand for dollar, more so that there are 5 countries, okay, known as the BRICS, that challenges this economic demand for the use of dollar. Okay, so they challenge it by probably using gold, which is now the standard of currency. Okay, and it may be yuan, okay, because the demand right now is to buy, purchase these Chinese products. So this is actually a challenge as to what denomination that they're going to use. But if you trace back history, the world economy is governed by the colonizers. Okay, in Spanish period, all of the countries that were colonized, that they colonized, use peso. Okay, or the currency that was used by the Spaniards, and all of the countries that they colonized also use the same currency. So almost all of the world at that time used that currency. But because of the lately they were replaced by their colonizers like the Britain, who also dominates the world. It was euro. Okay, euro for Europe. Okay, as a international, as their currency. Okay, but right now we know of the influence of US, so it's the dollar. So they control the economy by entering into a contract with Saudi Arabia that when you transact business, that crude oil must be sold in the dollar. Since all of us also purchase oil, okay, for our economy, then we have to convert our peso to dollar. So the exchange rate, which is now a great demand at present, okay, after the pandemic, makes that currency strong, okay, or meaning it's in demand, but it's the value that it is worth may no longer be the same as before. So in fact, there may be a possibility of a collapse. Why? Because they keep on printing without knowing first how much um, how much is the value of it. Because when you make money, there must be a reserve or something that can be a value. Okay, so in other words, when we use dollar, it's more of an international currency. It's just like in the Philippines that we have peso as a mode of exchange for all commodities in the Philippines. Okay, but we cannot just simply print it. Otherwise, it's just a mere paper without any value. Okay, so when we exchange that to other currency, it may not be that valuable anymore. That's why the Central Bank of the Philippines also limits it. Okay, there was a time in history when I think it was in Germany where when they purchase one bread, it's worth almost thousands of their currency. Why? Because it really devaluates, because they do not have products that can be in exchange of the money. Okay, so they have to produce first in order, they must have to increase first their GDP so that the money has an equal value. because they keep on reproducing money because it's the control of the government. Without the products or services that they render or they produce, then it may be of a less value. Okay? So, well, can we not also, can we, how about if we will not use money in all our transactions? Well, it's not practical anymore. Why? Because we need, you cannot just simply barter. Okay? Let's say you have a cow and then I have a fish. Okay, or let's say it's of equal amount. I need your cow and you need my fish. All of to do is to barter. We cannot do that anymore because these commodities these are perishable. So to make it lasting, then we have to convert our products into money which can last, okay, for a long time. So that is the nature of our economy. So in the world, okay, we have dollar. So if we have peso in our country, the world also use an international currency, okay, to exchange other products that are found in other countries. So right now we use dollar. Okay, there are challenges from other countries. They propose a better, probably, international currency like the use of gold. Okay, so these are the countries known as the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Okay, so they want to challenge, and these are actually big groups, and they constitute probably 40% of the world economy. So although there are only few of that, but they contributed much in the exchange of international currency, because these are very active in commerce. Like Russia sells all their oil to European countries, and when winter comes, probably people there will die. Okay, because there's no electricity, there's no fuel which will be used to warm their body during winter season. Okay, so it's coming already, but people are paying um, higher fees for the purchase of this crude oil. Now, exactly, that is what the president of United States, that Europe should have their own alternative. Okay, so they depend much on the supply of Russia, which actually resulted for this unfortunate event in our history, because Putin sees that this Europe will probably bow to him because they depend their economy on Russian supply of gas. Okay, imagine all parts of Europe, including Germany, which is their former enemy, okay, during the time of Hitler, also depend entirely from Russian oil. Okay, so that's how Putin, okay, you know him already, controls the world in terms of supplying the crude oil. In Philippines, we also purchase their crude oil. Okay, although there was a sanction from the United States, because they might use this money for the purchase of the crude oil, and the purchase of that crude oil for the manufacturing of the armaments or missiles for to continue his illegal acts of invasion. Okay, so that's how the global economy right now works. So other countries also groups themselves for mutual um, protection and commerce. NATO group themselves for mutual defense and protection. Other countries, like in Asia, we have ASEAN, and basically it's all for economic purposes. It was created for economic purposes. Now, one we have is to generate insights on economic globalization and global trade. Okay, How about this global trade? I want to tell you, okay, I keep on repeating this one, that other countries are also wise. China is very wise. Why? Because although they they are part of the permanent member of the United Nations, there is one group that they do not become a member of the World Trade Organization. Okay, these are groups of countries which, because of impracticality of registering all the inventions you have in other countries to be, for it to be recognized and you can claim therefore the rights, economic rights, if somebody would imitate your product, all they have to do is to become a member of the World Trade Organization. Okay, such that if your products is, or if your country is a member of that, the protection not only is in the Philippines but also to all countries that are members of the World Trade Organization. So in other words, if you invented something, let's say you invented or you had a product, okay, trademark, like Levi's granting it's in made in the Philippines, you don't have to go to other country and register it for it to be protected. And therefore, if somebody would imitate your product, you can claim for damages. Okay? So, as long as you're a member of the World Trade Organization, if you register your products in the country where you are, all of the countries who are members of the World Trade Organization also recognize that registration. Okay? So what happened is that China did not participate, which is why if they imitate the products of other country, it's difficult for the inventor, okay, or trademark owner to sue China. Why? Because they are not a member. Okay, they are not bound by that invention. Okay, they can just simply copy it. Okay, so probably you observe most of the products right now are made made in China. Okay, and you will know it because it's not registered. Okay, if it is genuinely in if it's genuine, there must be a word R. It means it's registered. Okay, so at the top of the trademark or trade name, there is a word R. It means it is registered. Okay, so I don't know if you observe that, but basically that's common to all other inventions that they put there are. It means it is registered in the Bureau of Patents under the intellectual property. Okay. What do you mean by this intellectual property? If you have invention, it is your own effort that you come up with a useful tool for the solution of human problems. If anybody will just copy it, that may be unfair on your part. So to encourage you to do more, okay, and to invent, which actually in other countries they are more into it, they give incentives to those inventors, you will be protected. Okay, all of do is to register it in the Bureau of Patents to prove that it is yours. So anybody who would copy or any similar or um, imitation or similar or seemingly similar to the origin, you can claim for damages. Otherwise, it will defeat or it will put a stop to those who have an invented mind. Okay, so to encourage that, you will be protected, and if somebody would claim or would imitate your product, you can claim for damages. So if there is a loss on your income because somebody copied or imitated your company, then you can be awarded with the amount of the loss you have. Provided also that you have to present the proof of damages, like a decrease of the sale of your products. Okay, so another damages like moral damages, or um, put a punishment to those who simply copied. It will be awarded to the real owner. Now, elaborate further the concepts of economic globalization and sustainable development focusing on environmental degradation. Can food security in the Philippines? Now, there are many inventions in the Philippines, okay, as I mentioned, okay, but it should be more inclined to environmental protection. One case I've read about environmental protection is an invention of BB Talong. Okay, I don't know if you are aware of that BB Talong. Okay, it's BB. It's a genetically modified organisms, GMOs. Okay, they modified the gene of this plant and to make it more more productive. As a result, the fruit of that plant becomes enormously big compared to an ordinary eggplant without that genetical modification. Okay, and also maize, okay, corn was also studied to make it more productive, which resulted to a bigger fruit or bigger type of corn. So that was effective. But there's another invention, okay, or discovery about the use of this genetically modified organism. They experimented this um, talong or eggplant, which resulted to the production of a bigger type of eggplant. But the question is whether or not it is sustainable, or are they really sure? It was asked in court if they are really sure that there is no environmental effect to human beings. Okay, so the result was that they are not so sure. They are not so sure as to its effect. So because they are not so sure of its effect to human body, and when it will really affect, it's no longer reversible, then it was not continued. Okay, that's the only problem here. We actually invented a bigger type of talong. It's a genetically modified, but the scientists failed to prove themselves a simple question. Okay, whether that invention would have an environmental effect. So since they were not so sure of the answer, it was not continued. Why? Because we cannot just simply agree on something, and we cannot um, solve anymore that its result. It happened many times. Okay, in our place we had before um, a golden kohol was not a problem. Okay, we do not have golden kohol, but one of the resident there put that as his pet. He got it from somewhere else, somewhere from Vizca, which is known for their agriculture. He brought that golden coal to his house, feed it with kangkong. But during the flood, this um, fish pan overflows and eventually goes into the rice field. Okay, so at first they do not eat um, rice. Okay, rice stalks. But later on, because of survival, when there's no food around, all they have to do is to adapt to the environment. So how did they adapt? They eat what they see. So since they are in the rice paddies, so what the only food you can see are the rice. So it becomes a pest already. Okay, so until right now, no, it cannot be stopped anymore. So that's the effect. So we have to be very careful in whatever we do. Okay, otherwise the effect will be catastrophic. So similar to bibitalong, as I've said, they are not so sure yet of its effect. So that's the reason why it was stopped. Okay, had they been so sure that it has a an environmental effect, or when the effect is calculated and it can be reversible, then probably it can be approved. Okay, focusing on environmental degradation and then food security. So right now, I think because of so many catastrophe, okay, typhoon, pandemic, um, there is really a less production. Okay, but sometimes it only appears that it is less, but in reality, it's not. How? How come? Because most of the businessmen who controls the distribution of this food, okay, they monopolize. Okay, they are the one who really control, and if they will not produce, they're going to buy all the products, and then they just control the output. So if they will not release let's say the food, it will create a scenario where there is shortage. Yeah, if there's shortage, then everything will goes up, all commodities. But in reality, they just hoard. Sometimes the government will ransack, raid those warehouses to prove that the 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 inflation is not really true. Okay, sometimes they are the one who creates the prices, like, in supply and demand. If there is shortage, like, although there's no shortage, although all they have to do is to simply do not sell. Okay, they hoard. Okay, they just wait for the right time to sell it at a higher price. So if they do that, it's actually a violation of the law, and at the same time it creates a false market. Now, that should be the activity of the government in times of food crisis. They have to go to the warehouses and prove to the country that what we have are temporarily, and they just simply hoard. Okay, of course, of rice shortage, right? So, not rice shortage, the sugar shortage. Okay, so you've heard of there's no more stocks in rice, in sugar. That is why when you buy, I don't know now at present, like Coca-Cola or any um, beverages, like soft drinks, for example, it's very expensive. Why? Because they use sugar, and they believe that there was a shortage, really, but in reality there was none. Okay, the reason is that this Bureau of Customs also earn money from the businessmen. So they are not going to sell their products. All they have to do is to import from other country, because they created a scenario where there is shortage. But in reality, they are just hiding the sugar in their warehouses. Now, why? Because most of these people also have connections in other country. Okay, so they're going to buy certain amount, let us say sugar, and then sell it in our country for a higher price. What is the result of that? That discourages the farmers. Why? Because their products will not be sold. Okay, or if it is sold, it will be at a lower price because of the competition from other country, which is also at lower price. Okay, and this sometimes give frustration to farmers, which resulted to become more unproductive. Why? They spend much on the production, but during harvest season, somebody will just simply sell the products which is of similar which is similar to what the farmers are producing, so at a lower price. So what happens is that this farmer will also compete, so that their products will be sold as well, so that they can get their capital back. Okay, So it will now be at a lower price. So what is the effect? They do not actually earn. Okay. Now, so if I am the president, I would simply do not import, because computing in income of a country, it simply means that your export is higher than the import. If your importation of, let's say, buying product from other country is higher than what you sell, then you do not earn. It must be the other way around. You have to sell more than what you buy from other countries. Okay? So in our practice in the Philippines, we normally keep on buying products from other country. That's why we do not really improve. Now, evaluate, publish researches on economic globalization, poverty, and inequality, with emphasis on global income inequality. The third world, like Philippines, at now present, but we continuously rise up to become a middle income country. Okay, the global south and the global city. Analyze the theories of global stratification based on their usability and global economy. Now, there is an activity which you have to answer. Okay, so you put there, you copy this one and answer in the Google Classroom. Okay, and put there check or wrong, just copy and answer this one.